Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to this deep dive into FME Desktop 2017. I'm Tiana Warner, Technical Content Marketing at Safe Software,
And I'm Mark Island, product evangelist at Safe.
and we'll be your host during this webinar. We've also got a few people on Q&A, including Dale, so type any questions you have and we'll answer them. So go ahead to the next slide, Mark.
Oh, yep, sorry. Somebody says in the chat they're still hearing music, so
Oh.
it's not coming through me. Okay.
All right, so yeah, the official release is going to be on March 1st. We're doing something different for this year's release in that we've launched a release candidate, which is already available for download at safe.com/beta. The release candidate is basically an almost final beta that has all the new features we're about to show you, but it's still undergoing the full extent of our test suite. So while it's technically still in beta, the hope is that the build will be the final one and it will be launched on March 1st. So if you do want to start using these new features, we encourage you to download and use it. And of course, if you find anything weird or buggy, please do let us know.
Yep, it's still just about
And
time to fit fixes in, I guess.
yeah. If you follow us on social media or subscribe to our email list, you'll be noticing a magic theme starting to show up everywhere. And this is because the theme of this year's FME World Tour, which kicks off in just a couple of weeks, is the magic of FME. So yeah, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Well, we figure magic makes anything possible, and we hope FME feels like magic for our users.
Oops. Sorry, I keep forgetting I'm on slide two.
It's okay. Yeah, so even if you know the secrets behind magic, that doesn't make it any less magical. So yeah, go ahead. In this webinar, we're going to start at the surface of FME 2017 and then dive progressively deeper until we get to the very bottom of the Mariana Trench, so to speak.
Yes.
So you
Looking
can
at
take it away.
Yeah, looking at usability and everything like that. Okay, thanks, Tiana. Well, I'm up first, and I'm going to talk through a few of the updates to 2017, and then do a demonstration of them after I've talked about a few things. The new features we're going to look at first are what we call on the surface, so we're not diving very deep to understand these. Um, for example, we've redesigned the quick add window, and that's not anything particularly complicated, but the new ability to add readers and writers that way by using quick add is going to be very welcome. It's a good time saver, I think, especially to users who like to just type commands directly on the keyboard, and you know who you are if you're one of the keyboard people. So yeah, revamped quick add, and we'll look at that a second in the demo. Something else you'll probably be quick to notice is the transformer gallery's been reorganized. In particular, all the categories have been updated. I think over time the previous categories got a bit stale compared to some of the newer transformers that we were adding. Yeah, I think I've been at Safe for 13 years now, and I don't remember them ever being updated before. We've never changed the categories. So we decided it was long past time to come up with some new categories and reorganize everything, and that's what we did. And hopefully these will make a lot more sense than the previous ones and give us space to put in the new transformers that we build. And so as FME users, you'll know that Workbench has got a number of different windows, and we added a new one to its interface this year, and it's called the Parameter Editor. In short, the Parameter Editor is a single dialog in which parameters can be defined for any object that's on the canvas, so transformers or feature types or whatever. And basically it turns your Workbench dialogs from modal into modeless, if you're familiar with that terminology. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I'm about to demo it in a second anyway, but also because we wrote a blog article about it before, so maybe we can chat that link out to the blog post or send it out after the webinar so you can read it afterwards and find out in a bit more detail about this.
Yeah, and after this, we'll be sharing a recording and the slides, so you can click on any of these links that show up here.
Fantastic. And another surface change to Workbench is the ability to change the style of connections between objects. You can see there the different styles and what they look like. Really, it's just a way to make workspaces more stylish as well as functional. We have this idea that if something looks good, then it's probably well designed, and if it's well designed, then it runs better. So that's one of the reasons for doing this. I'm going to skip over it fairly quickly because everyone has their favorite, and they defend it quite vigorously. But I'll demo it in a moment, and you'll see how that works. And the final thing I wanted to show before we do a demo, well, technically this isn't an update that's new to 2017. It was in 2016.1, but that means we've not had it in a deep dive before, so I figure we can get away with it. You probably noticed a lot of transformers have rejected ports on them, and we've been adding a lot more ports to a lot more transformers over the last year. And they handle features that are invalid in some way for the transformation that's being carried out. So what this new functionality does is provide a parameter that decides what happens when a feature gets rejected. Do you want to stop the translation completely because something's not right, or do you just want to carry on with the translation and worry about it afterwards? So let's have a look at that and a couple of other items that I mentioned in the short demo. So let me see if I can find Workbench. Whoops. Okay, so we've got Workbench. So let's have a look. The first thing I wanted to show was, sorry, excuse me a second. So the first thing I wanted to show was the quick add. So if I click on the main tab and go to my canvas, I can use quick add to add a reader and writer. So for example, I can type map info onto the screen, and it brings up all of my different formats, map info formats as readers and as writers. So I can say, let's pick that map info format as a reader, and then I can go and browse and find some data. And we'll use the parks data. Anyone who's done the training course, the basic training course, will be familiar with what I'm doing here. So that's what the quick add does. Basically, we can add a reader. I can also add a writer. Now, the thing you've got to be careful of is just not to dive in and pick the format there, because I'm still adding a reader. I've been picking the wrong one often. So we can just pick a writer instead. We'll pick an output folder. And there we go. So quick add now does new formats. It does formats as well as transformers. But it still does transformers as well. And interestingly, because of the redesign, you'll see that you get the help for each transformer as you click on it in here. So the dialog stays up now when you're clicking on something, and you can check all of the different transformers and find out the help for each of them before you place it on screen. Now to go to the transformer gallery, we'll have a quick look at that. So notice that we've got different categories now. They're different to what they were before. So we've got calculated values, coordinates, filters and joins, geometries. We tried to make it a bit easier to understand what they do. So I can look in calculated values, which is, if I hold my mouse over, tooltip says, transformers that calculate a new value and supply it to an attribute. So I'm going to look through there for the statistics calculator and drop one of those into my workspace. The other thing I'd perhaps mention is that all transformers now are capable of being multi-category. So for example, the attribute rounder comes under calculated values, but it also comes under the string category as well. So you can find transformers in multiple categories now, not just one. We were always capable of doing multiple categories. We just never got around to reorganizing the transformers. So now we have, and you can find them in lots of places. Okay, so let me connect that up. So now we've got to set some parameters, and we have this new parameter window which I can open. Now, when you install FME, it probably is open by default, but if not, View, Windows, Parameter Editor, and there it is. Excuse me. So any object I click on the canvas, it brings up the parameters for that object in this parameter editor window. So for the area calculator, for example, I can just set my parameter, click apply, and it's done. I don't have to keep opening and closing dialogues again and again. So we're hoping that will, I think that's going to be a huge difference in how most people work. I think it's easier than opening dialogues. So yeah, and statistics calculator, I just click on that. It opens up the parameters. Let's select the one to set. And now, just to show you, I don't actually even have to click apply. I can just click somewhere else onto another object, and it automatically applies the changes I've made, which I think is a good way of doing it. We don't really want to pop up a dialog and say, "Are you sure?" Because you've got changes, you didn't save them, because that would sort of take away from the whole point of this. So we made it so that when you click somewhere else, any changes you've made are applied automatically. And you'll notice here that I've actually clicked on the table parameters, and we can see those as well. So feature types, I can see what user attributes are in here. So I can say, well, let's hide some of the attributes that I don't want, and click the apply button, and it applies it directly to the canvas. So, I mean, I think this is fantastic, especially the way it does feature types. I mean, you can't beat that. So user attributes on the writer feature type, I can do that. I could edit them. I can change it to automatic. Click the apply button, and there they are. So yeah, it's a very powerful window. Now, one other thing I wanted to note about this was that if I add a new parameter, say I add a city parameter, I can now set a value for it. So I can set an attribute value, a text editor value. So I can just type in a value like that, click OK. And that applies to the feature writer transformer as well. So if I look at the feature writer and do the same thing, see, I keep opening the parameters dialog by mistake. It's just
I do that
compulsive
too.
to do that. Yep. It's going
Old
to take a
habits die
while.
hard.
Yeah, it's going to take a while, I think, to stop doing that. But the feature writer as well, anyway, it's got the value field, so I can put a value directly into an attribute in the feature writer. And in the very latest build, I think it only went in like last night or the night before. You now can do conditional as well. So click on the drop down, it'll have conditional values that go directly into a feature writer or feature type. So yeah. Oh, and just to mention, with the other thing about the parameter editor, if I select multiple features, it tells me what those objects are and lets me select them. It also works on bookmarks, so I can change the name of the bookmark in there. Deep dive, and change the color of it as well. I'm just making an orangey color. And again, click apply, and there we go. So annotation, bookmarks, anything that's on the canvas pretty much, you can click on that and it'll bring up the parameters for it. And if you click on nothing, well, it brings up the workspace parameters. So it's a very, very good dialog, that one. Now I promised to show you the different styles of connection as well. Right now I'm in Manhattan style with these squared edges. If I press the shortcut, Control-Shift-C, that changes me back to classic, back to curved, and so on. My only advice there would be to pick a style and stick with it, because sometimes, let's say I've got curved, you want to make sure that your transformers are in the right position so things don't overlap, and so if I change it, then it sort of overlaps quite badly in Manhattan. So basically I say pick one style and stick with it, and then that way, because you'll want to lay out your objects depending on what style you're using. And I think the style is also available on the menu bar as well. Curved, square, and straight. So there we go. A couple of other things. Oh yeah, the rejected ports. I had to show that. If I just throw a feature in there that is going to be rejected, like I pass a null geometry feature into an area calculator, it gets rejected. Now, by default, it stops the translation. It says, got the first feature, it wasn't something I could calculate the area of, I rejected it, so I stopped. Now, how do I stop it from stopping and just continue the translation? Say I'm like, I don't care. If it's something that comes out of there, I don't want to stop the translation just because of that. How do I do that? Well, if I look in the navigator window, notice for a start that we've reorganized. We used to have workspace properties for like naming the workspace and workspace parameters for things that did something. Well, we merged them all together into one section now. And what I'm looking under is translation, rejected feature handling, and I'm going to change that from terminate to continue. And now when I run this translation, it'll reject the feature, but it won't stop the translation. The rest of it will carry on. So it really depends on what you want to happen. If you want the translation to stop as soon as something is rejected, you can set it up to do that. If you don't care quite as much, you can have it continue. And even if it is in terminate mode, as long as I've got something connected, then it won't terminate. It's only when you have that bare icon there that there's a difference. And one more thing I wanted to show, I didn't mention this yet, but let's save the workspace. And notice as it's being saved to Documents, FME, Workspaces. It always used to be Documents, My FME Workspaces. But since we have the FME folder and we've got sample data, transformers, formats, whatever, it made sense to have a Workspaces folder there now. So now we've got that Workspaces folder to save that workspace in. Let's say I save it somewhere else. Let's say I save it in the deep dive folder, like so. And I'm going to shut down Workbench. Oops, that's not nice. I'm going to shut down Workbench and start it up again. And I'm going to create just a very simple workspace. Just going to put down one transformer and hit the creator. I'm going to hit the save button. Oh, and it saves it to the last place that I saved a workspace. So before it always would default back to My FME Workspaces. Now it defaults to where you last saved a workspace. That's a tiny change, but it's great for me because if I've got a project that I'm working on, normally I want to save the workspaces in the same folder. I don't want to have to default all over the place. The other thing that's nice about that is we've unentangled that path from data paths. So if I'm browsing for some data, it should browse to the last data folder that I was using. It doesn't default to the last place I saved a workspace, which is what it did before. So we've unentangled the workspace path from the data path, and I think that's a great improvement. Even though it's one of those small things, it's a big improvement. Okay, well, let me flip back to some slides. I think that's all of the surface detail covered. Let's have a look at diving deeper. We're going to look at some deeper technology here. Down at the abyssal plane, we're going to call this. Okay, so what we're going to look at, the first item here is web services. Oops. So what we've done is we've made web services really great to use inside FME, both desktop and server. We had some functionality there before that you might remember, but what we have in 2017 is just way, way superior. We can create connections to web services, use those connections in many more ways, and we can even upload them to FME server for use there. So you can publish a connection to server. Server's got its own interface now for managing connections, and you can see that in the server deep dive that's still to come. And when I mention web connections, I mean things like Google Drive, Dropbox, A360, all sorts of different web services that can store data on. And again, I'm going to demo that in a minute. And one way to use these web connections is this. Any source dataset parameter now lets you browse for files directly within a web service file system. That's any source dataset. So, for example, later on I'm going to demonstrate reading CSV data directly from a Google Drive. It's not like it has to be a web format. It can be any format of data. And another new use is through transformers called connectors, and you can see one of those on screen now. So these transformers are a way to pull and push files to and from a web service. So it's not like we're using a reader to read data. It's more just like fetching a file and the raw content in that file into a workspace, or writing data out just as raw file onto a web service. Speaking of CSV, this format got a major update for 2017. It uses new technology now that we call feature tables. It's an underlying technology that speeds things up enormously. If you attend the World Tour, which obviously you should, I put a demo together for that, performance demo, and in that I showed what took us 1.5 minutes to run in 2016 takes 15 seconds in 2017. Like CSV reading and processing is that much faster. That technology is applied to a few other formats as well, and even transformers as well. In future, I can see us implementing more and more functionality in that way. We've not covered everything yet within FME. So for now, CSV is the big beneficiary, but in future, I think we're going to get a lot more formats and transformers that use that. Whoops, there we go. One new format we've implemented is MapInfo Extended tab, which is a new format for 2017, and that has this new feature table technology as well. So yeah, something good now, but also something to look forward to, I think. Okay, dates and times. This is just so cool, I think. I only got to play with it last week and I'm hooked already. What we did was we added a bunch of different functions for making date-time calculations. For example, I'm subtracting one date from another. I'm adding, say, X number of days to a previous date. I'm creating time intervals and a whole lot more. And I got a great demo of this coming up in a second. Well, I think it's a great demo anyway. You can judge for yourself when you see it.
It's pretty excellent.
Oh, thank you. The data inspector table view, yes, we updated that to not show every table by default. So before, if you open up a data set, it's got a whole bunch of tables or layers in it, we would show all of those tables in the table view automatically. And that meant you had to wait while all of that data loaded. You were loading hundreds of thousands of records you probably didn't even want to look at. So now we don't do that by default. We only show the tables that you pick from that drop-down list. And that is probably easier to show than explain, so I'll do that shortly. And the final thing before we go on to a demo, name connection support in server. I wouldn't say this is particularly deep, but I just love this update, so it's going in my demo anyway. Basically, it's a time saver. Just like you can have database connections, now you can have server connections and reuse them again and again. Saves you all that typing in the same server URL again and again and again. So very useful. Okay, let's have a go at a demo. So we'll start with an empty workspace. And what we're going to do here is use some web connections in here. And what I can do is Tools, FME Options, and we've got a section called Web Connections, and this is where I can add a new connection if I want. You can see I've got connections to Dropbox and Google Drive, and I've also got one to my FME server. I can click plus button and add a new connection to all sorts of different things, like so. And if, for example, say it's Google Drive, I can click the Authenticate button, and it pops up with that dialog. I think we've actually got a poll at this point. Stephanie, do you want to start? We've got a poll asking you what web services you use. Can you do that?
Nice. There it is.
There we go. Poll in progress, it says.
Ooh.
See. Oh, there we go. I see. Yep.
We've got a couple clear winners so
Oh
far.
yeah. So I can see that. Okay, well that's probably enough. Do we want to can we stop that and display the result? There we go. So yeah, most people are using Google Drive. A lot of people use Dropbox and
Mhm.
OneDrive as well, which is something I've never even tried before. So
I've been trying it recently. It's actually really easy to use. Yeah, it's really nice, actually.
okay.
Yeah.
I guess because we use Google as a company, we use Google technology and apps.
Yeah.
So I've always stuck to Google Drive. But anyway, okay. So are we back on my view now?
Yes.
Uh, We
Yeah.
are. Okay,
Looks like it.
perfect. Okay, so those are the web services I've got. Let's add a reader. So again, I'm going to add a reader using Quick Add, CSV format. And when I browse for the dataset, I'm not going to use the browse button this time. I'm going to click the drop down arrow, and there's an option on there that says select file from web. And I can browse to Google Drive, and it opens up a dialog to let me pick a Google Drive connection, and then it will let me search for and browse for files on Google Drive. So for example, this is part of the deep dive, so I can search for deep and 2017 deep dive, and there's my file, parking tickets. So I'm going to open that up. Now CSV is a lot quicker, like I said, and so preview normally just comes like that. Obviously it's a little bit slower here because I'm fetching 400,000 records off of Google Drive, so it's a little bit slower to display, but not much. That was pretty quick for saying it's showing that many records, a preview of that. So that's very good there. And you can see this is a set of data about parking tickets. Most importantly for us, it's got a date. It's got a date and it's got a section that says have you paid yet or not. So we're going to OK that, and again, and we've added the CSV reader. Now what I'm going to do is add a sampler transform because there's 400,000 records in here, and I don't really need to use all those for a quick demo on here. So we're going to say we're going to say the first 100 features, and we're going to randomize that. So we're just going to pick 100 features at random. Okay, so let's look at some dates. Well, we've got the date formatter, which we had before. I'm using this because the date calculations that we do all rely on you having an FME format for your date. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to make sure that the date field is in the standard FME format. We can do date times, but I'm just going to do the date because that's all that's in my data. Okay, so now I can have a go with the new datetime calculator transformer. So this is new for 2017. In fact, it's really new. It's just came out. It was added to the release candidate just a week or two ago. And what it does, like I said, it adds intervals, subtracts intervals, calculates the difference between times. You can put advanced expressions in there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add to my attribute a period of 6 months. Why am I doing that? Well, let's say that you've got a parking ticket, you've got 6 months to pay it, so this becomes your maximum payment date, 6 months on. So we've calculated what that payment date is going to be now. So if you haven't paid by then, you're in trouble. So let's put an attribute manager down and calculate, well, has that 6 month period expired or not? And what I'm going to do is put an attribute manager. I could do it in a datetime calculator, but I'm going to do it in the attribute manager just to show you some of the advanced functions that we've got. Because the datetime functions have been added to the text editor dialog. So I'm going to create a new attribute. We're going to call it overdue date. And I'm going to open up the text editor. And hopefully you can see that we have a whole bunch of date time functions in there that we can use. So I'm going to say, what's the difference between, now let's see, I'm going to use today's date, which I'm going to use the FME feature function for, timestamp. There's a timestamp function. I'm going to say, okay, this is today. My date string is the date they should have paid by, and tell me the difference in days, or I could say months, I could say years, I could say days, whatever. I'm going to say days. It's going to tell me how many days difference between today's date and the date they should have paid. And if it's a negative number, then it's okay. Your payment date's in the future, you don't have to worry. If it's a positive number, that means you're overdue. So we'll click OK. So we use that advanced function directly within the attribute calculator. And what I'm going to actually do is going to create a new field called overdue, and I'm going to make that a conditional value. Now, I think this is another thing we changed for 2017. Before, you couldn't calculate something like overdue date and then use it further down in the list in the attribute manager. Now you can. So I'm going to set this as a conditional value and say, let me see, I've got to make sure I get this right. Well, let's start out with payment. Payment equals no, so you haven't paid, and the overdue date, which is, remember, is the difference. It's not an actual date as such. Maybe I gave it a bad name there. It's a difference between two dates. I'm going to say, is that greater than 0? And that should be an AND test. If it is, then you're overdue. If it's not, then no, you're not overdue. And so that's fine. Okay, well, let's see what we've got. Connect an inspector up. I'm going to open that inspector and I'm going to group by a few different things. This isn't new for 2017, but it's going to be very useful to me. I'm going to group by overdue and payment. And what that's going to do is it's going to give me separate layers now. It's going to show me who's paid, who hasn't paid but still has time, and who hasn't paid and is now overdue. So we want to get different tables because I want to show you in the data inspector how that works, having different tables in there. Okay, there we go. It's running a little bit slow today for some reason. Opening the data inspector. And okay, so we've got 3 different tables. Actually, I've only got 2. But wouldn't you believe it that I'm picking random data. I pick data where somebody's either paid or not paid. So I'm going to flip back to Workbench and run that again. But while we're doing that, I'll just show you. So they've not paid and they're overdue. And now I click on the drop-down arrow and pick a different table. And these are people who have paid, and therefore they're not overdue. And so that's not a problem. So what we didn't get there was anybody who hadn't paid and yet still had time. So I'm running that again. Here it comes. Oh, still the same. I must be unlucky. And like I've run this several times, and I've always picked out a number of people who haven't been overdue, and now I'm not getting that. But the important thing there is the overdue date. Like, it's not like in Workbench, I didn't test it and say, is this date greater than that date? I actually calculated the difference. So this person is overdue. They got their ticket on the 13th of January 2016. They should have paid it by the 13th of July 2016. And given today's date is February the 8th, they're now 392 days overdue from the original date. I think I should have picked payment date and not. That's my mistake. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and debug everything, but that shouldn't have been value date. It should have been payment date. That's why I'm not getting anyone that's not overdue. That's because I'm looking at that thinking it's not 392 days since they should have paid. That's 392 days since their first offense. So now running that again, that will solve the problem. But I mean, this is a very complex issue, the dates. For example, what happens if you say take February the 28th and add 6 months? Should it be August the 28th or should it be August the 31st? Because February 28th is the last day of the month, so are you saying it's the last date of 6 months' time, or is it the same day number in 6 months' time? Similarly, February 29th, 2016 plus 1 year. Well, we don't have February 29th this year, so is it February 28th or is it March the 1st? So we have to make decisions like that as well. And there's some very complex things going on as well. Like the latest thing is, well, if the time is 10:60:00, does that mean it's 11? Or is your data just a bit wonky? So yeah, we got that to think about. Leap second support, we're going to have that in 2018 probably. And so basically we've got end-to-end support for fractions of a second now, from readers, transformers, writers, all the way. The one last thing I wanted to show, remember, was publishing to server. Hey, look, I can just pick a server connection. I don't need to type anything in now. It's all saved. I can hit upload, and there it goes. So we're all good. And oh, database connections. I've got a note that said database connections now work for all file database formats. So, for example, you could create a database connection for a geodatabase, probably, file geodatabase and things like that. So that's new as well. Okay, I think that's my demos all done. I think we're going to switch over to
Yes.
Tiana. Can we give you control?
Change presenter to me.
Awesome. I've not seen your demo yet, but I read what you're going to cover. It looks really good. So
Excellent.
I hope I left you enough time. I do tend to ramble on.
That should be good. Yeah.
Excellent.
Main screen.
There you go.
I need to find my name now.
I can see a screen with a horse.
Yeah, that's my horse. Okay, so you can see the slides now?
I can see the slides. So
good. Okay. All right, so we are going deep diving into the Mariana Trench now. Let's go. Okay, so we've got a few new formats. We've got some new satellite formats, BIM, data visualization and analysis in the form of click maps, and our Tableau support is now cross-platform, and some web formats like Mark talked about. Autodesk FBX was added as a reader in 2016.1, and now it's also a writer. MapInfo extended tab. This is for MapInfo's new tab files, and like Mark said, it's a lot faster now. If you want to read old tab files with this format, you can, and in most cases it will be faster. OpenStreetMap PBF is protocol buffer binary format. That's an XML alternative. What else? STL is 3D CAD for 3D printing. Then we've got some new transformers as well. We put a lot of focus on making web connections easier. So you'll see a few new connector transformers. The geocoder is from various services, and we're going to look at that one in a second. S3 transformers, sorry, that's going to be the updated. Yeah, S3 transformers now, they let you pick the region, so that gives you better performance if you pick a region close to you. The raster mosaicer, we're going to look at that in a second as well. The geometry validator tells you now exactly what failed and where. And the shortest path finder, we have a blog post on that Mark did. If you search on the blog for traveling salesman problem, you can read up about that a bit. Basically, if you need to find the shortest route between 2 points and apply different weights and restrictions to the different paths, this will be helpful. So that's the updates. And then I think, yeah, we're just going to jump into a demo here so I can show you. So let me go to Workbench. Okay, so the goal in this demo is going to be to get up-to-date satellite imagery for any FME World Tour city of our choosing. So first of all, the FME World Tour webpage, it has a table of cities, dates, and hosts. So we're going to scrape this information from the page using the new HTML table reader. We'll go back to here. So we'll type using quick add HTML table reader, put that in, and I'll copy the URL from the web page. Paste that in here. Okay, and we'll add that in. And then it's going to ask us what parts of the web page we want to get. So we can see clearly here FME World Tour Cities, that's the table here. So we'll choose just that feature type. And that's going to give us all of the nice attributes that we need. Okay, so in order to let the user pick the city they want to get, those of you who are familiar with FME will know that the way to get user input is via a publish parameter. So I already set up a nice publish parameter in another workspace. It has a choice with alias drop-down, so you can see here, just lets the user pick from a number of cities. So in FME 2017, you can copy and paste user parameters now. So I can save myself some time by just copying it from this workspace. So I'll right-click and say copy, and then go to my other one and right-click paste. So now I've got that parameter in here. I didn't need to do a thing. Awesome. Okay, so next we'll want to extract the city that the user chooses out of this FME World Tour web page data set. So we'll add a trusty tester transformer, and we will check, edit here, we'll check that the HTML attribute city is equal to what the user picks, so city choice here. So we've got attribute city equals user parameter. Okay, good. And then the next step is that we want to get a geometry point for that city. So we're going to add the fancy new geocoder transformer, geocoder, there we go. So that transformer is going to go in there. And given the city name, if we pick the Google geocoding service, I know that that will give me a point in the middle of the city. So there you just need to paste in your API key, which I did before, and just save that as a default. And then for the street address, we're just going to pick city, and I know that that will give me a point in that city. Okay, so next we want to make a bounding box that we're going to be able to pass to the satellite imagery service. So around this point, we're going to do a 2D box replacer. And I saved these defaults over here earlier just so that you don't have to watch me type, but basically what I'm doing is going plus or minus 0.03 in each direction. That's just going to give me a small bounding box around the city. Okay, so now we have a bounding box around the area we want to get. And it's time to summon the satellites. So I'm going to add a feature reader, and use this to get planet data. Planet. It's my favorite one so far because I wrote a blog about it and it's pretty awesome. Okay, so let's look at these. All right, so with planet, I'm going to open the parameters here. You do need an API key. It's pretty quick to sign up for, and it gives you access to California for free. So again, I saved my API key as a default earlier. I just pasted it in and click Save My Defaults there. So we're going to click Item Type. So with Item Type for Planet, it gives you a few choices. These are different satellites you can pick. PS stands for Planet Scope, and RE stands for Rapid Eye. So I'm going to pick PS, so the Planet Scope Orthotile Satellite. And I'll just pick a 2-week span here so we get all the imagery from the beginning of the year. We'll just go January 1st to the 14th here just to get a small time frame. Click OK. And then feature types to read. They've got a few options here. Visual is that gives you a nice RGB image, so that's the one we're going to get. You can also pick analytic, that gives you raw sensor data. Unusable data mask, UDM, that's more advanced. It involves deciphering a binary string, and then you can get some thumbnails if you want previews. But visual is, for me anyway, has been the most useful. It just gives you the actual picture. And then spatial filter, this one is where we say envelope intersects. So that's going to get us all the imagery within the bounding box that we created. So we'll click apply. Okay, good. So we've got that. And then after the feature reader, oh, this is another new feature on the feature reader, this little inspect button. You can, on any transformer that uses an external file, feature reader, the joiner is another one, you can now click this inspect shortcut just to see that data. And on a lot of them too, they have like that open containing folder button, like this one here. So you can see exactly where that data is. So that's kind of useful. Okay, so now to make the raster images look nice, we are going to use the raster mosaicer. And this has some new, oh, this connection here, I just wanted to make sure it's connected to visual. Okay, so raster mosaicer has some new parameters, or sorry, a mode for handling. So we're at it. There, overlapping values. Okay, so the mode for handling overlapping values, you can choose a few different options here. Okay, so what we're essentially doing with the Planet Reader is getting a stack of satellite imagery over that date range. So when we set this mode in the raster mosaicer, we're saying for each pixel, pick the best one in that stack of images, and that's the one that will show. So if we choose a minimum, this is usually a good pick for satellite imagery because it gives you the darkest pixels in that stack. And why is that good? Because clouds are white, so this reduces cloud coverage. You can also do maximum if you want the lightest pixel to win. Average is the average of those other options. Then if you want last, that gives you the latest, which will give you the most up-to-date picture, but you do run the risk of seeing some clouds in that case. Some that is useful for numeric rasters if you want to sum the values over time. And then composite using alpha band, that one takes transparent bands into account, so you can basically see through the top rasters. So we're going to pick minimum in this case since we want to try and minimize cloud coverage. Okay, but since I am getting the darkest pixels before this transformer, we should put down a raster band no data setter. And we'll set this to 0, which basically makes us ignore pixels that are entirely black because they're missing. And then we're going to connect an inspector to the end so that we can see the result. And then finally, we're going to go to tools, and this is a feature that was here before, and then it was gone, and now it's back. Apply auto layout. And I'm so happy it's back because look, ooh, so nice. It just kind of makes everything look good. So that is the workspace.
I've got to say, I don't agree with that, but that's
no.
That's me. I think if you're using auto layout, you're not doing it right, but that's just me.
Apparently I don't do it right because I always need auto layout. It's just
I'm sorry.
Faster. Okay, so let's run this. And you'll notice that this is the user parameter that I set down. That's all the choices I want the user to be able to pick from. So we're going to pick San Francisco and click OK. So that's going to run. Yeah, so that's the workspace. To recap it, we are asking the user what city they want to get. We're matching that to a list of FME World Tour cities that we scrape from a web page. And then we are geocoding the city that they choose and making a bounding box around that. And then we're using that bounding box to query planets' satellites. And then we're mosaicing that imagery together using the mode that is least likely to show us clouds. And we're routing that to the FME data inspector. I think one other thing worth noting that I had written down, Mark, maybe you can, it says print, you can print workspaces now. Is this the right?
Right, yes. That used to be there, but I don't think it worked very well, so now we refresh that functionality.
If you go extend, you can like see
it quite a lot, yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. You can print your workspace if you want to share it. Um,
You could even print it up to like A0 size and have big posters on the wall. That will be
yes. So I'll let that load for a second. I think the image is quite humongous.
yeah. If
Um,
you've got a background map turned on, it'll reproject it, won't it? And that's probably what's slowing it
yes.
down. So
Yeah. So actually, what I'm gonna do, I'll launch the poll.
okay.
Uh, yes. So of everything we showed today, we want to know what your favorites were. Um, Usability updates, that was quick add formats, parameter editor pane, copy paste parameters, web services support, that was like the new connections, saving your connections, browsing as a file system, and new and updated formats. We've got CSV performance, some new satellites, HTML tables, things like that. New and updated transformers. We've got the date time calculator, geocoding, raster mosaicer. And
I
then if you're just really excited about everything and you can't possibly pick one, you can do that too.
I really love the copy paste publish parameter. That is going to be so useful.
Move.
Because
Yeah.
it's so annoying when you have to recreate the transform parameter again and again in different ways. So that's awesome.
Okay, I'm going to stop the poll here. Share results. So looks like, oops. Oh, it's a pretty even spread there. Can you see it? Is it
I can, yes, yeah.
good? Okay,
Usability nearly 50%, so that's good.
nice.
I mean, they're my favorite updates, to be honest. I just love anything that makes it easier and faster and rewards like the best users. Now they've got shortcuts and things. So I just love those updates.
Nice. Yeah, looks good. Okay. And the satellite imagery is here now, so hide results. Can you see my screen again?
Yep, we can see
Okay.
that.
So yeah, there it is right over San Francisco. This is the latest, or I guess the date I picked was in January. So this is January satellite imagery from Planet of an area over San Francisco, nicely mosaiced. So there you go. Oh, now I zoomed in and it's gonna not like me again. But
But I
yeah,
guess the point there was that you fetch lots of different tiles and mosaic them together, and where they overlapped, you picked the bit that looked like it had less cloud in.
yeah,
And I think that that setting in the raster mosaic is huge. It opens
yeah.
up some massive possibilities.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome actually. All the different settings you can do there because I mean I was asking like some of them minimum and stuff that's good for RGB rasters, but things like sum and average and stuff that might be good if you're doing more advanced analytics as well.
Yeah, I
So
can see
pretty useful stuff.
Dimitri coming up with some great examples for that.
Yeah, I think he already has.
Yeah, well, there you go. So they'll probably be on the knowledge center before too long. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, so I guess that's it for that demo. We can come up for air now.
Breathe
Yeah,
again.
so user
The not
community.
Yes, the user community. We wanted to just mention that and give a plug for it. Because I mean, it really is fantastic to have so many users there asking and helping each other out with questions and the ideas as well. I don't know if you've got a web browser open where we can look at the ideas
Yeah,
section. So knowledge.safe.com. So any ideas you have about FME, you can put them in here, and you can see people have suggested them. But if you click on the thing that says in beta, so down to the left a bit,
yeah. Oh yeah.
so you can see all those things that have actually gone into 2017 that were suggested by users, like Internet of the File System, duplicate a parameter, fantastic, copy parameters between workspaces, and things like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic. So keep up the ideas, keep voting on the ideas, um, even if you don't have ideas of your own, have a look through, see what other people have put, and vote on them, because we do take the number of votes into account when we're picking what to implement.
We do, yes. Yeah.
Yes. So absolutely sign up and get involved in the community, and it helps everyone. So we have a poll, I think, don't we, about if anyone's a member of the community. Do we want to do that
Oh
quickly
yeah,
or not?
we
Or not
do.
bother? Yeah,
Oh,
let's do that.
okay.
Somebody was asking, could you show how you built a city choice parameter again? I don't think we really showed how you built it
Right. No,
because
I
you
didn't.
had it. Yeah, you had it, and we just copied it. But
I can, after we close this poll, I can just show that.
yeah, maybe after we've done the webinar, we can carry on and cover some questions, and that's one we
Sure.
could perhaps show then.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, because what I did is I had built it before, so I just copied it over to the new workspace, which saved me a bit
yeah,
of time. Because if you do have like a complicated parameter, that one had a lot of choices with alias, and it would have taken me a while to build again. So copying that
yeah,
over was pretty helpful.
yeah. So
Okay, so
results of the poll.
yeah,
There we go. Ah, a lot of people going to get a account. That'd be fantastic. Again, there's a Q&A section, which is really good. We've just appointed two of our users as community moderators to help out.
nice.
So you should find their input. They have more tools now available to help moderate that. So, yeah.
Okay,
So please do, yeah, sign up.
and yep. So that was deep dive into desktop. We've got deep dive into server coming up as well, so please sign up for that one. Not sure who's hosting that one, but
I'm
we'll
not
find out.
either, no.
Yeah.
Probably Aaron. And yeah.
And then, of course, we've got the FME UC, first one in 3 years. Chris Hadfield is keynoting. That's coming up in May. And beforehand, we've got the FME World Tour. And me and Mark are both going to be on that. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Fantastic. Where are you going this year? You're not coming to Winnipeg, are you?
No, I'm East Coast, but we're not doing Winnipeg. We're going to New Jersey instead.
Oh,
Yes.
well, I guess at least it'd probably be warmer in New Jersey. But
Yeah.
someone is coming to Winnipeg. Winnipeggers, don't worry. We are having an event. It's
Yes.
just Anna and Donna.
Our team is, yeah,
Yes, different,
going to
different, switching it around this year.
I'll never get over the amount of snow that was in Winnipeg. It's it
Well,
scarred
you
me
should
for
come here
life.
this year then. It'll be crazy. The user conference as well. We've got a day of training before that. So if you on the 23rd, I suspect it is. So you can come along and get some advanced or basic training, depending on what you like, on lots of different topics, including Python, I think. So yeah,
Yeah,
well worth coming, and the UC is worth coming to anyway. It's just a fantastic event. You
it's
get
so
to
much fun.
yeah,
Yeah,
you get to ask all our developers questions firsthand, and yeah, Chris Hadfield is there, so fantastic.
excellent. And yeah, so if you've got questions, let us know.
Yeah. Well, shall we
And
call an end to the webinar since we're almost smack on time, and then go through some
yeah,
Q&A questions? And
for sure. Thank you everyone for coming.
yeah, thank you. It's been a pleasure and a privilege to present. Love seeing so many people here every year.
Yeah, and we'll see you in the deep dive to FME server.
Yeah, and in the meantime, yeah, we'll go through a few questions if you want to hang around, and we might get a few people from support who were there chiming in, and yeah. So there was that question about the city parameter. Do you want to just do a quick
Yeah.
demo of that one?
So in this situation, what did I do? So let's go edit valid. No, does that we want to edit
Edit definition.
definition?
Yeah.
So yeah, I did choice with alias, and basically it lets the user. So I just named it. That's the one that we're going to use in the workspace. Prompt for the user, and then here configuration. So you can choose a display name and then a value. I mean, when you make a parameter, you can choose any number of things. Choice with alias multiple, that lets the user pick more than one
Yeah.
list of attributes. And I don't know, I mean, pretty
Yeah.
self-hosted.
So
Did you import those? I noticed when you brought that up, there's a place where you can import. So if you had a CSV or spreadsheet, you wouldn't have to type all that stuff in.
Yeah, I
Or did
did
you?
actually import.
Oh, I wonder
Yeah.
if you could import that from the dataset, the web table.
Yes. So let's,
I bet
you
you could.
can.
That's
So let's add
advanced.
a new one.
Oh boy.
Here we
Okay.
go. This is
Tracy.
off-roading at its
Never, never
finest.
before seen.
So yeah, choice with alias choice, and then pick a city configuration. So what you can do is go import from, from data set, and then HTML table, and then copy, I'm gonna go back, no, forward, copy that link, and then paste. So it's now going to do basically what we did earlier with with like putting an actual reader in. So I'm going to pick the World Tour cities.
Wait.
Oh, wait.
Attribute values, I think.
Oh, yes.
I
Attribute
think it
value.
should. I think we might want to change that to default to that because it
Yes,
catches me every
yes, that's a good
time.
point.
Yeah. And then,
So you
yeah,
probably.
I think I'm trying to remember what I did. Yeah. City.
Yeah.
I think that's what I did. City.
Yeah.
And then it imported all of them.
Wow,
And
that's
then,
fantastic.
yeah. And then you can go through and say, like, oh, I just want this display name to say Atlanta. I just want this one to say Austin.
Yeah.
And then you can remove some if you want. And yeah, so that made it
And
super easy.
the table that you picked, it actually had a name, like it said FME World Tour Cities, and I got our marketing team to update the website with that as an actual table name. Otherwise, it would have just been like Table 1, Table 2, whatever, to pick from the
Yes.
website. But
Yeah.
I've actually been using that to scrape some of our internal systems at Safe that basically generate us nice tables inside of HTML pages as reports. And I've been using FME to scrape those to do other stuff with developers that have PRs to QA, for example, or they are getting the fruit of that. And yeah, you often get like 15 tables, so you just have to kind of in kind of these business systems may not name the tables very nicely, but you
yeah,
can quickly figure out which one it is, and it's really, really handy. I think that HTML scraping is going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So,
So
were there any other questions, Dale? Yeah, sorry.
yeah, I made some notes of some interesting things. One is somebody asked us how they could find out all the scenes for British Columbia that are available, and we don't really have anything quite like that. But I've just chatted out to the entire audience, and maybe Tiana, do you want to? I don't know if you can see that. If you want to paste in Dimitri's Landsat browser, we're going to try to spiff this thing up, but and have it support more systems, but I think as well, we might have a version of this that does the Sentinel one as well, but basically you kind of pick an area. The UI is a little bit tricky right now, but you pick an area and then it ends up giving you a report ultimately of the images that are available there, and you can kind of do something with that. Have you used this thing? I think at some point you click and then it goes away and does a query. But
Yeah,
that's just an yeah.
I clicked here, so I think it might do something. We'll find out.
I
Yes.
noticed it's running on server in the background, FME server in the background. So
That's right. So this is powered by, so the HTML page is sitting on Amazon S3 that does this. So we're pulling a map from I don't know which service. And then ultimately FME server is right now, I can tell, running and going out to Landsat and figuring out what scene. So that'll come up in a minute. Dawn and Aaron are the deep divers, I think, on server. So that should be entertaining. There's lots of controversy around workspace styles. Oh, there we go. I see some results coming.
oh, very cool.
Ooh.
Right. So
That gives you
that's just, FME is setting up to be like the ultimate tool for accessing this stuff, and we're looking at making that the thing that Tiana's just walking through right there available to everybody for the taking, and then ultimately you get links in there and so on that you could point FME at, and off you'd go. But yeah, there's controversy around Curvy versus Manhattan, and then You know, there was people that talked about the stack home where you just put everything all on top of itself. And seriously, somebody tweeted that there's a customer that didn't like using the scroll bars in their workspaces, and so they would just do that, is like jam stuff like all on top of itself. So that might be a new form of auto layout we could add that just, you know, fit on top of itself.
Yes. I didn't mean to be insulting, by the way, about auto layout, but it's to me, it's one of those things. You should be designing the layout as you're going along. You shouldn't be just clicking a button and expecting it to be laid out for you.
Any discussion of auto layout always involves me quoting Mark Stokes and what he's once said about the British schoolmaster. It said, "A tidy desk reflects a tidy mind."
Well,
and it sounds
does.
like. But
you
see, what if you auto layout?
Well, that's like Mary Poppins coming in and saying, "Let's just click our fingers and tidy up." And yes, it's not good for you in the long run.
But you know, Mark, I got to say, Roger Akema tweeted something that said a Manitoba style. Did you see that?
Yes.
Make the workspace sparsely populated, find giant bugs, and send them in to our developers. So apologies to people from Manitoba.
Okay. Manitoba style was just having very straight lines across. No up and down, no angles, just straight flat lines.
Yes, yes. So. Let's see. There was some people were wondering what in the world is this line builder thing, and
yes.
And that is, I don't know, Tiana, do you want to just go into Workbench and type point connector, or PC would probably get it if Mark doesn't object to us typing PC.
No, that's fine.
Right. There. So point connector. Look at it, shows line builder, and that's because it got a rename, and the reason is that we're trying to reserve, Tiana, if you just type the word connector by itself, we're trying to reserve the word connector for all of these things that go out to web services. And so as you can kind of see in the transformers list, the point connector down at the bottom, one of those things is not like the others, and so point connector is not about connecting to points. It's about joining points together into lines, and so that's why we renamed it. And speaking of joining, the joiner got renamed to database joiner, I think. If you type joiner, So again, that's trying to be clear that we're not
joining
connecting
geometry.
things.
Yes,
So that was what that all was about. Somebody, with respect to the new CSV reading, said "holy moly," and to that person I say there's a whole bag full of holy moly waiting to come in the future as well. A whole bunch more where that came from. And in FME 2017, the holy moly is fairly minimal. Like it's pretty dramatic, but it's not rolled out through the whole product, and so you quickly go into the old way of things happening. You'll still get a speed improvement, but we're working hard to roll out that the speed improvement more broadly.
And it can depend what you're doing with that as well, I think, within the workspace. Some transformers would need to revert back to the old CSV.
Yes, that's right. Like what happens is we basically read stuff in a big block of things that are identical, and as long as we can work with it in that kind of block, then we'll keep doing that. But there are going to be many transformers where we'll never be able to work with it in a block, and at that point they will split into individual rows as before. But it's really going to allow us to optimize and keep our power.
I think I did that in my demo. The first transformer I put down was a randomized sampler, and I thought, that's probably going to make it change back to individual rows. But
so
with that
time
demo wasn't about speed.
One thing that was quite a lot of action around is rejected ports. And so there's two things I want to show there, if you don't mind, Tiana. One is, let's just put down any transformer like a bufferer. Just throw down a bufferer, and it will have a rejected port. If the way Tiana's got this set up, that means if something bad happens, we're going to end the translation there. Some people said, well, wait a minute, what if I want to let it keep going just for this case? And one thing you can do is, well, that would, we'll go to there in a minute, Tiana, but if you just type down a junction, just put down a junction, and then connect the junction instead of the buffered to the other one. So that's a way of neutralizing the rejected port without having anything, like hardly using up any screen real estate. And that basically says, look, see no evil, I'm going to just stop right there and or let it continue without caring.
That's
And
a very
so
good idea. Yeah.
the other thing is, Tiana, do you want to go in and show them the options where that is done?
Yeah. So just right here in the general translation setting, you can terminate or continue. Just switch that. That's it.
And what that does is it sets the default from now on. One of the people said, look, I'm always authoring stuff for FME server. I want my server stuff to run. I don't want it to end ever on these bad input or bad data. And so that's a way that, no, TAN has set that, but you have to make a new workspace. If you if you make
so
a new workspace, yeah.
Yeah.
That's now
that's
set the default.
Yeah, that's the default for new workspaces, not.
So if you just throw down a buffer once you do that.
Ah.
Ta-da! So that's if you are someone that doesn't like this rejected business, then just set that, and then when you author, all is as it was.
I'm just going to switch it back. Just don't mind me. I'm just switching.
People want to read directly from Amazon S3, so when we say select file from web, they want to be able to point right to something in S3. And as Tiana is showing, we do have a bunch of S3 transformers, so you can, I guess with a downloader would let you download things from S3. You can do that, and it's a little bit more roundabout, but we will take that feedback and look to integrate S3 more directly. ArcGIS Online, people want to be able to do more with that, and actually anybody that's still on, if you have specific things you'd like us to connect to in ArcGIS Online, we do have an ArcGIS Online. Actually, if you just type ArcGIS Online, you can see, I think, that we have stuff. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff already, and of course the ArcGIS Online feature reader, or there's a reader and writer for that, and more stuff to do with Portal, which I think, and maybe someone can chime in if this is true, I think that Portal is being renamed to ArcGIS Enterprise, but I might be wrong, but looking forward to getting the correct nomenclature there, and I'm sure we'll find out at the upcoming Developer Summit. SAFE will be there, and if any of you are going to be in Palm Springs, I don't know, Tiana, do you think Palm Springs would be a good place to go right now if you're in Vancouver?
Sure, yeah.
We've had more snow in the last 4 days, I think, than we've had almost the whole time I've lived here added together.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So, someone said that they have troubles with. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, just one other thing I meant to mention and forgot. If you click on View Windows, Tiana, if you can do that.
View Windows?
Yeah, we have a hub browser window now, right down at the bottom.
Oh.
Which I can't remember being there before. So is that new for 2017?
It's all new.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just like a sort of web browser, but I suspect if you click on something, it will download it directly.
It is a full embedded, yep.
It's here too. Browse
there we go.
in the Transformer gallery. Browse.
And actually, Tiana, if you go out into the, like just the quick add, and you type something nonsensical, like, horse browser or something, yeah, there we go. Look, you can say, or browse FME Hub. And so if you click that, it should bring that up too.
Fantastic.
Nice.
A lot more integrated. I like that.
And of course, this panel there is much. Actually, you can see Dimitri's new NDVI calculator is in there, and yeah, if you hit that, go ahead and hit it, Tiana. I think it. Oh,
I'm on a.
You got too old of a workbench.
Dimitri's probably using tomorrow's build, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cutting edge. He definitely likes that. So.
Oh, one thing I was going to point out, I don't think it's completely wired up, but Tiana, do you want to put down some kind of a transformer, any transformer that can bring up the, where you did the date editing, those date function stuff? I don't know if that was you or Mark that did that, but...
Date, time...
And if you get into the, if you maybe go in the mode there, under mode go like advanced, or that'll do it too.
Okay.
So under the help, if you go down to help, it has a pull down, and I think there, like that, yeah, that may not be wired up yet, but
it is.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
well, look at that, it is.
Last time I tried it, it said, "Please put content here."
Well, look at that. The elves have been working overnight.
Excellent.
Thank you. I think we owe a high five to the people down sitting across from you, Tiana, where you sit, that must have got that in there. But
Nice. I'll high five them for you.
yes, but that we felt that with especially these date time things, you really want to know the syntax, and so we wanted a quick jump to the help there. So that's a new thing that was done. Someone complained that Microsoft OneDrive corporate accounts don't work with FME, and you know, because we don't have a corporate OneDrive account, that could be why. So we'll have to make sure to file a PR on that, because OneDrive rated highly in your poll, didn't it?
Yes, yes,
Yes,
it
it
did.
did very much.
Um,
The UTC offsets for date times, we calculate those as well, is that right? So, because
I think that they are in there.
I think the scenario I was told was, well, if you've got FME running on an Amazon virtual machine,
Yes.
and that machine could be in any time zone, you don't know where it is. It's not the same time zone as you are. It's not the same time zone as your date. So we should now be able to handle those sort of differences.
And I see, if you look at on the thing Tiana's got shown there, date time create on the far right, it kind of does have the offsets in there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we do understand that. I know that in 2017.1 we're going to understand time zone names as well. So
Fantastic.
So we'll know about PDT and PST and all these kinds of things. Yeah. So that's a big deal. Yeah, in general, people were very enthusiastic with all this date stuff, and so a little bit overdue for us to attack these, but you know, it's sort of a reflection. When I was a young lad in university, I didn't get around to dealing with dates for a long, long time, and so this is sort of why it's taken us a long time in FME as well, maybe.
Yeah.
Let's see. So Workbench, Git integration, people really want to be able to write to, or basically have us track revisions better. And actually, Tiana, do you want to go to the Knowledge Center and we can show them the ideas and we'll sort them. If you go to Knowledge, yeah, here we go. Go to the ideas. And then hit the thing that says sort by suggested.
Sort by.
If you go by state, if you look by state there.
Under
by product, so go left.
Oh, I see.
Oh, here.
Yeah,
okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. If you hit suggested, the top suggestion is related to Workbench connecting to revision control. And so those of you that said you're going to sign up to the Knowledge Center, that would be a place you could go and add your votes to these things. In particular, that one. Clearly, that's one that's close to people's hearts, and so that's there. And
Dale, can you tell me about web serv? Or were you still talking about this?
Nope.
Web services. Can you add your own web service? Because I thought you could, as long as you have all
Okay,
of
so
the.
I'm not quite as sophisticated as the Dons and the Stewarts with respect to this. But if you go into, yeah, Tiana knows. Tiana, I think, knows this, because did you have to deal with some of this for the World Tour talks, Tiana?
I can't. I think like last year, sometime I was trying to add my own or something. I don't. I was looking. Oops. I was looking into this for some reason, but
If you scroll, no.
yeah.
Is
So
there
I
an
think-
ad?
So you can, down at the bottom of this dialog, yeah, there's a plus there.
So you can add.
So I mean, I was thinking like, well, my Fitbit, that's got an OAuth to
Yeah.
account, so I could always add that as a web service if I wanted.
Yes, and Don has added his weather sensor that's in the outside of his house, or something called NetAtmo, and there's a little bit of a dance for making these things work, but
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if there's a knowledge article yet. I mean, this is still kind of cutting edge stuff, but we've definitely built the platform that can deal with it, and now we just have to kind of sand off the edges. But like import from or create from, what do those things have? Okay, yeah, so you can. All right,
Right,
yeah,
so-
our vision. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think last year. Yes, that's what we did on the world
there's
tour.
your-
We
There's
we
your
made
NetAtmo one. Yeah.
we made an Instagram one, and so you can on the hub right now. You can just import that, and it should So it comes in like that. So that's good. You can just add your own that way. So there's only a few on the FME Hub, but we're hoping more people will add them as time goes on. And you can create your own based off of an existing one
Yeah.
or from scratch.
I mean, I was reminded of that because you were talking about GitHub integration, and there is a
Yes.
GitHub thing there, but it's obviously not going to send workspaces. But you could probably connect and send data to it, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
Mhm.
Actually, Tiana, is there a web services talk as part of the World Tour this time around?
Um, Not a dedicated one,
Yeah.
but we do mention it a little bit.
Maybe we'll have to do a webinar, like once the dust settles and we're through UC and stuff,
Yeah.
we'll have to do a webinar to kind of just bring everybody back up to complete date on where we've gone with this. I mean, the huge effort that went on in FME 2017 was getting all this stuff working on server. So FME server can work with all these things, and then the definitions can be shared between server and desktop, and you can re-authenticate on server and so on. There's still, it's a bit tricky on FME server to use these things in an FME server that is behind a firewall in your own organization. And the reason is that OAuth, when you basically say, hey, enter your Google password and stuff, that goes out to the outside world, and then the outside world has to call back to you to say, yes, this person is who they say they are. Well, if your FME server is behind a firewall, you
Yeah.
can't call back in there directly.
Yep. Yeah, I've been
But
writing the training materials, and it's fantastic stuff, but that was catching me out. Um, I
yeah.
couldn't authorize Google Drive on server because of that. Yeah.
So Mark, where is that for which course is that going to be in?
For the authoring course, the server
Oh, for
author.
server. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
So, I mean, it's odd because I can authorize it using desktop on that machine, but I can't authorize it using server because
Yeah.
it's it tries to go back through the server, as it were. And
Yes.
I
It
was
is.
just
It is. You know, it's some mysterious thing that it can all work with desktops, which are,
yeah,
you know, inside a Workbench. You can get the callback to happen in there, but you can't
yeah,
get the callback to go to a server that's kind of
yeah,
on your own machine, but still you're kind of behind the firewall. And we have there are tricks you can do to make that work. Right now, the easiest way, if you want to do server with web services, is just run it on FME Cloud to begin with, and then or out on Amazon, and then you're in business.
yeah.
So I think that's all I had. I don't know if anybody else from the team, Jennifer, Mark, anybody else have things this morning to Steve?
No, I'm all good here. Thanks, Dale.
Excellent.
All
Well, we
right.
must have covered just about everything, I guess, and answered
Yeah.
everyone's question. That's great.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Sticking
Excuse me.
around.
Yes. Yes. Thanks again, and I guess we'll see you all at the World Tour and the user conference.
Woohoo. All right.
Can't wait.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.